or at least was, the 14th day of the month of Elul. We are almost halfway through Chodesh Elul, and we have the schus of learning Daf Chaf Vav Amud Aleph of Maseches Pesachim, picking up from the continuation of the machlokes that we had between Rav and Shmuel with regards to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, whether or not a person is chayev for this nisur hana. If a person was in a situation of efshar or miskaven, one or the other, and in which case one would be chayv, and in which case one would be pater. We have 3 lines from the top of the page on Daf Chaf Vav Amud Aleph, and the Gemara, quoting from Abaye, tells us at the end of the line, Amar Abaye said, Mina aminullah. How do I know? How do I know that Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that I am allowed to continue benefiting from some isur where it is efshar and you are mechabe, meaning I'm enjoying it, but there's no way out of it. I don't have another option. The Tanya, we have a brayso as follows: Amru alav al Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. It says that there was a story about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was sitting in the shade of the Beis Hamikdash. The Heichal of the Beis Hamikdash, v'derish kol hayom kula, and he was learning. He was learning the whole day. What was he doing there? So he was teaching the halachas of the Yom Tovim. 30 days before the Yom Tov, you have to give shiurim on the halachas of the Yom Tovim. And he's sitting in the shade of the Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash is kodesh, and one is not allowed to get hana from the Beis Hamikdash. And yet he is enjoying the building of the Beis Hamikdash, providing him the shade. Says the Gemara, that is a situation where it was impossible to get out of it. Now, of course, he could have left that shade, but Rashi points out here that there was no other place that he could have had such a big space. There was no Beis Medrash that was able to be machzik everybody. So he can't not give the shiurim, can't not learn. This is the only space that he could do it in. So that's the space. Now he is getting benefit. This is he is intending to get benefit from it. The shade at the point in time of the day that the shade there, that's great. V'shari, and yet clearly it was mutter because he kept staying there. He didn't cancel the shir. Says the Gemara V'Rava. Amarava says Shani Heichal. No, that's not a proof. The Beis Hamikdash is different. Why? Dila Seicha also, because the Beis Hamikdash is made to provide walls that will service the inside. That's the purpose of the Beis Hamikdash. The Heichal of the Beis Hamikdash is not there to provide shade to the outside. That is a byproduct. That is not what the purpose of the Beis Hamikdash is, and therefore, if a person were to be deriving benefit from the shade on the inside of the Beis Hamikdash, in a chaim, that would be awesome. But this is no issue because that's not the purpose of the walls of the Beis Hamikdash. Amar Rav, says Rav, I'll give you my proof. How do I know that this is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion? Rabbi Yehuda is going to say that in a case of efshar, in a case of efshar umechavin, that it would be aser. That's in fact what Rabbi Yehuda holds. The time in the Brisa says, "Lulim hayu psuchin ba'aliyas beis kodesh hakadoshim." There were skylights, like passageways that were open on top of the Beis, the Kodesh Kodashim in the Beis Hamikdash. Shebahem mishal shlin esha umanim betevos, that they would lower the craftsmen, the people that were involved in the renovations of the Beis Hamikdash. So there was an isur of going into the Beis Hamikdash. That's an isur of Beis Hamikdash. You weren't allowed to go in. They didn't go through the paraches. That was only allowed to the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. But how would they get in when they needed to do renovations? The Kodesh HaKadoshim, they would go in from the roof. And they would go in this chamber that would be able to keep them totally ensconced within it, and then they would have a little opening that they would be able to open and do whatever work they needed to do in whatever corner or section they needed to. So these boxes that they went down in, that is how they did it. Why? So that their eyes literally should not be, they shouldn't get nourishment. They shouldn't get mazon. Their eyes shouldn't enjoy. They shouldn't get benefit from looking at the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Says the Gemara, in such a situation, that is an impossible. There's no other way that you can do renovations without being there. And they would be looking at it and getting benefit. Says v'aser, and clearly that is aser. Says Rava, that's a dead giveaway. That's a dead giveaway. That even in a case where it's efshar, if you are mechaven, it should be aser. Says the Gemara b'Tisbara, how could you say that? V'hamar Rabbi Shimon ben Fazi, didn't Rabbi Shimon ben Fazi tell us Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi mishum bar kapara, in the name of bar kapara, kol umare v'reach ein bahem mishum meila. There are three things that it is impossible to violate the isur of meila. They are kol, sounds, umare, and sight, v'reach, and smell. Those three things, it would be impossible to violate mishum meila. What would it be called? So the Levium were playing music in the Beis Hamikdash. If you listen to that music and you got benefit from it, so there would be no meila in that. Umare, and looking at the beauty of the Beis Hamikdash, you enjoy looking at the artwork, the craftsmanship of the Beis Hamikdash. There's no meila. V'reach, and if you smell the smells of the Beis Hamikdash, and we'll see that in a moment, that's the smells of Ketores, ein bahem mishum meila. There would be no isur of meila in such a circumstance. So why would they put them in a box when they went to the Kodesh HaKodashim? It says, Ela mala also beves Kodesh HaKodashim. There was an additional isur that they instituted midrabanan, a mala, meaning an isur midrabanan, and then an additional chumrah because of the kedusha of the Kodesh HaKodashim, even though meikar didn't mutter. It says Ichda Amri, and there are those that argued again. Within the opinion of Rava, Rava says, how do I know that a situation of efshar and mechaven is aser? The Tanya, Amar Rishon ben Fazi, Amar Rishon ben Levi, quoting this exact Gemara from Rishon ben Levi in the Bar Kapara that we just used to disprove Rava. Kol mare umare v'reach, the kol mare v'reach ein b'hem mishum meila. They don't have any isur meila hu deleka. Now they don't have meila, meaning you haven't stolen from the from the Beis Hamikdash. That's meila, is inappropriate usage of Beis Hamikdash property. Ha isura ika, yeah, but there's still an isur, meaning there's no isur midaraisa on a level of daraisa. There's no prohibition because there's no meila. But they made an isur midarabanan. It says my love la'isana oimdim bifnim. Didn't they do this for the people that are standing on the inside of the Beis Hamikdash, meaning that they made this isur for the people that are inside the Beis Hamikdash, that they shouldn't get any benefit, even though it's efshar that they could do the work of the Beis Hamikdash, and they were mechavin, and they're planning on getting benefit. It says delay efshar for the people that are delay efshar mechavin va'aser. These are talking about people that it's impossible for them to go elsewhere. They need to be there. They are intending to get benefit. And it's forbidden for them to do so. That's the isur. It's an isur d'Rabbanan. Says the Gemara, no, that's the isur. For the people that are standing outside, meaning they can avoid. They don't have to be there. They don't have to be there. And then, since they don't have to be there, that's where there is an issue. But in Chanami, if it would be a situation of efshar, even if they were mechavin, maybe you could argue that it would be mutter for them to do so. What about the Kodesh HaKodashim? So you would have probably answered the same thing. You would have to say that in the Kodesh HaKodashim, even though it would be mutter, there was an additional chumrah that they added to the Kodesh HaKodashim. Either which way, you cannot learn from this to other cases of efshar and mechavin. Now the Gemara is going to deal with this question about reach, because we just said that kol mara and reach in bahem mishum meila. Says the Gemara Gufa. Let's get back to this discussion. Amar Rishon ben Fazi, Amar Rishon ben Levi, mishum bar kapara, kol mara and reach in bahem mishum meila. That these two things do not have the isur meila. Why? So this is for reach. The Gemara wants to challenge this reach in bahem mishum meila. Hold on a second. The smell of the Beis Hamikdash, there's no meila. V'hatanya, don't we have a brisa that teaches us that if you made the k'daris, you made the mixture of the k'daris, bitum k'daris, li'islamid ba, in order to learn how to do it, or if you were giving it to the kila, meaning you were doing it in order for it to be used in the Beis Hamikdash, pater, you are exempt, meaning, what's the exemption? You're exempt from the isur of making the k'daris. It's also to make k'daris. So Rashi points out here. So k'daris zara she'ena shel tzibur. That's meaning the person was making it not for the tzibur purposes. Im leislami ba'olam esher achar pituma letzibur pater mikaris. If he gives it over to the tzibur afterwards, then it's pater from karis. Aval im data lehatzniach letzarcha. But if he wants to keep it for himself, lehariach ba, in order to smell it. And he used the recipe that is written in the Torah. Chayiv kares, that person is chayiv kares. Tichsev ish asher yaseh kama lahariach ba v'nichras. Person that makes it in order to smell it, that person is chayiv kares. Lahariach ba chayiv. To smell it, you'd be chayiv. V'hameriach ba, and if you smelled the ktaris, meaning the ktaris that was in the Beis Hamikdash, says the Gemara, it says Rashi, b'ktaris shel tzibur, pater mikares. You pater from kares. Mechatas, you also pater from mechatas. D'lechiv v'Torah ela hamafatim la'ariach, because the Torah only was mechayiv you if you made it in order to smell it. Meaning, you didn't make it, but you are smelling it. That would be a ptur. Says the Gemara, ela shemal, but you have violated mi'ilah. Meaning, you're not a chayiv kares, but if you smell the ktaris of the Beis Hamikdash, then you are chayiv mishum me'ilah. And we just learned that kol ma'areach ein b'hem mishum me'ilah. Says the Gemara, okay, how do we deal with this kasha? Ela Amar Rav Papa explains, kol ma'are ein b'hem mishum me'ilah lefisha ein b'hem mamash. Kol ma'are, sounds and sights, there's no me'ilah because they don't have a thing. Meaning, a sound isn't tethered to a thing. There's no item of the sound. There's no item of the sound. This has an nafkamina with regards to Tkiyah Shofar. The Gemara passes, the Rambam passes Allah Chalamaysa, that a shofar gazal, you can still be yotze the mitzvah of Tkiyah Shofar. If you stole a shofar, you're still able to fulfill the mitzvah of Tkiyah Shofar because it's not a mitzvah haba ba'avera. Because the shofar is not the object of the mitzvah. The shofar is the thing that the object of the mitzvah comes out of. What's the object of the mitzvah? The object of the mitzvah is the sound, which is why the bracha that we make is lishma kol shofar. It is to listen to the kol of the shofar, and the kol ein bahem mishum me'ilah and ein bahem mamish. This has fascinating nafkaminas. There's a chasam sefer like this about intellectual property. Meaning, this is beginning. Can you be mechayiv somebody for stealing intellectual property? Is there something sheyesh bahem mamish? Nevertheless, says the Gemara, kol umare ein bahem lefisha ein bahem mamish. What about reach? So what's the reach we're talking about? Reach la'achar shetale timrasai ein by mishum me'ilah. The reach of the smell of the ktaris after it has already been used up. It has filled the heichal, or filled the kodesh kodashim, filled the area that's supposed to go. It's already burnt up. The ktaris doesn't exist anymore, but the smell is still lingering. That's where there's no me'ilah. Since the mitzvah is already over, the mitzvah is over, so now there's no longer an issue to talk about. It says the Gemara, hold up a second. Does that mean to say that any time that the mitzvah is finished, that the possibility of violating me'ilah is finished as well? Very trumas hadeshin. But what about trumas hadeshin? Trumas hadeshin is the cleaning of the cleaning of the ashes of the mizbeach. Says the Gemara, the nasas mitzvasa. Once you've taken them off the mizbeach, the mitzvah is finished. Now you just have a pile of ashes. The mitzvah is done. The carbon is done, and the ashes are done. It says v'yesh ba mishum me'ilah, but we know that there's an issue me'ilah there. The pasuk says v'samai etzel ha mizbeach. You have to put them next to the mizbeach. Why? Shelo yifaser, that they shouldn't be scattered around. V'samai shelo yeneh. Etzel mizbeach. You have to put them by the mizbeach so that they are not scattered around. V'samai, and you have to place them shelo yeneh, so that you don't get any benefit from them. Meaning, you're not allowed to get benefit from the ashes. And even though it nasa mitzvasa, says the Gemara, no, that's an exception. Mishum dahavet trumas hadeshin, because we have psukim describing similar things by trumas hadeshin, uvigdei kahuna, and with regards to the begadim of the kohen, shnei ksuvim habayim ke'echad, and these two psukim come together. Means they're not written together. These two psukim have the same din. And anytime that you have two psukim that are teaching me a unique din about themselves, so then it means that it's not a general rule. It's an exception that pertains to these two things. So let's understand the lamdas here. The Gemara is saying, Trumas Hadeshin, the pasuk says you have to put the ashes next to the mizbeach. So maybe you could assume that any time that something has already been nasa mitzvah, once the mitzvah is finished, then you still have an issur of me'ilah there. Says the Gemara, no. Because the same thing that is said by Big Tekuna is said by Trumas Hadeshin is said by the Big Tekuna. The Big Tekuna also need to be put away in a way that you're not going to get me'ila from them. What exactly does it say? So we'll see the psukim with regards to the big day kuna in a moment. But what that means is that if both of these psukim need to tell you that you have to put it in a way that they don't have me'ila, that means that in general, after something is nasa mitzvah, that there isn't a problem of me'ila. Says the Gemara, which is exactly what we said about reach. Says the Gemara, Trumas Hadeshin Hadar Amr. Trumas Hadeshin, the pasuk says, "V'samai etzel mizbech." They have to place them by the mizbech so that they don't end up getting lost and getting used inappropriately. Big day kuhuna. What about the big day kuhuna? Says the Gemara, Ksiv. The pasuk tells us, "V'hinicham sham." That you have to leave them there. What are we talking about here? This is Parashas Achamas. That v'nicham sham, that you have to place them there after the Kohen Gadol is finished going into the Kodesh HaKodashim. He comes out, he takes off his white clothes, and v'nicham sham, you have to leave them there. That tells you that they need to be put away. You cannot use them ever again. Says the Gemara, this is good and well for the opinion of the Rabbanan, the Amri Melami Shitu Unim Geniza, that tell you that, taka, this needs to be put away. Rabbi Dosa, what about the opinion of Rabbi Dosa? The Polygalai, Rabbi Dosa disagrees. The Amar, he says, these are the same big day kuna that a Kohen Hediyah, that a regular Kohen would be able to use the rest of the year. So the Kohen Gadol takes them off. Who could use them? The Kohen Hediyah can use them. That's why you have to place them. You have to put them aside so that you don't end up that they don't end up getting ruined, going missing, because they are allowed to still be used. They're allowed to still be used. So if they're allowed to still be used, then you only have one pasuk of Trumas Hadeshin telling you that the Trumas Hadeshin need to be placed in a safe place after Nasa Mitzvah. But according to Rabbi Dosa, the big day kuhuna are not finished with their mitzvah. You could still continue to use them for the mitzvah. And what's going to be the problem then? Because then maybe the Trumas Hadeshin is only one pasuk. It's only one pasuk telling me that after I finish doing a mitzvah, I am still not allowed to use that stuff, which would now create a problem for our understanding of reach, because reach is something that we just said the mitzvah is finished, and therefore there is no me'ilah. But if there is me'ilah by Trumas Hadeshin and by nothing else, maybe that also means that that's a rule for everything, including reach. Says the Gemara. So what's Rabbi Dosa going to say? Umavi nicham sham. According to Rabbi Dosa, what does nicham sham mean? Shelo yishtamish bahem b'yom kippur macher. That the Kohen, this Kohen Gadol, the next Kohen Gadol, next year cannot use them. Meaning it's only a one-time usage for Yom Kippur. But it could be used during the year for somebody else. What are you going to say? What are you going to say? Trumas Hadeshin now is the only possible. Says the Gemara, Mishum, to have a Trumas Hadeshin ve'egla arufa. No, because there's also egla arufa. Pasuk says about egla arufa that an egla arufa also cannot be used for anything else. It has to be left there. Even after Nasa Mitzvah. So, says the Gemara, Shnei ksuvim habayin ke'echad. Therefore, you still have two psukim that are teaching me this rule of the Nasa Mitzvah, I'm not allowed to use it for anything else. These are still shnei ksuvim habayin ke'echad. V'chol shnei ksuvim habayin ke'echad ein melamdin. Anytime that you have two psukim that come together to teach me the same din, ein melamdin, you cannot learn that to any other case. Says the Gemara, okay, good. That's good and well if you are of the opinion that two psukim cannot teach you a rule. That we apply this principle of melamdin. But according to the opinion, who says melamdin, which is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda in Maseches Sanhedrin, what are you going to say? You should still be able to be melamed from these two psukim or three psukim, from Egla Arufa and from Trumas Hadeshin and from Big Day Kuhuna. You should be able to learn back to reach, that reach, even after Nasa Mitzvah, you cannot use it. Says the Gemara, this is different though. Trei mi'uti ksivi. Not only are there two psukim, there are also two limitations that are written into the pasuk. Says the pasuk, specifically with regards to Egla Arufa ksiv, the pasuk says v'samai, and it says by Trumas Hadeshin, it says v'samai, you will place it. Uchsiv, and by the Egla Arufa, it says, meaning you will place it. You have to place those ashes. Uchsiv ha'arufa. The pasuk doesn't say ha'egla. It says after you've done the whole Egla Arufa thing, the pasuk says ha'egla ha'arufa. It could just have said ha'egla. It doesn't have to tell you ha'arufa. You know that it's the egla that they chopped its head off. So the fact that it says ha'arufa tells you this one. Meaning we're only talking about this specific mitzvah. Says the Gemara Tashma. So come and hear this. If a person takes a calf into a pen, vidasha, and as a result of that, the calf has now provided you with threshing, meaning it has trampled on your grain and it has broken the husks, and now you can get the seeds, you can get the wheat out. It says kshera, it is still kosher to be able to use for egla arufa. You just put it in the pen, and it happened to end up threshing. You have nothing to worry about. It's still kosher. Bishvil shetinuk, but if you put it in so that it should be able to nurse, v'tadush, and it's threshing, psula, now it is going to be possible. It says, and that seems to be a case. It's impossible to do anything else because a baby cow needs to nurse from its mother. And you did intend to derive benefit. It happens to be there, so it's extra feet crushing the grain. So psula, and says the Brisa, it's possible. This calf can no longer be used as an egla arufa. Says the Gemara, no, that's not a good proof at all. Shani Hasam, it's different in that case. Dirshu, because the pasuk says, "Asher loy ubad ba," that it was not worked, meaning you have not had it do any work. Mikol makom at all. There, we're not talking about a regular isra. What we are talking about here is the pasuk says that no work should be done with it. It says the Gemara, if this is so, I feel a reshinami. So then the beginning of the brisa that tells me that if I happened to put it in the pen and it happened to trample something, so it would also be an isra of asher loy ubad ba, that I've also been turning onto chafav of base, that I've done work with it. It says the Gemara, no, that's not the same thing. This is it's only connected to a case like this. Meaning, what could we compare this to? Shachan ala oif kshera. That if a bird lands on it, it happened to be a good place for one of your birds to rest. So your bird has derived benefit. You have derived benefit because it happened to land on the horn of or the head of your egla. So kshera, the egla arufa it's still good to be used as an egla arufa. Allah zachar. But if a male cow tried to mount it, psula, then it would be possible. Says the Gemara, hold up a second, my timer. And that question of my timer, what is the reason that there is a difference between these two things? Why is one of them going to be possible and the other one going to be kosher? That we will take care of tomorrow morning. Everybody should have a wonderful evening and a Shavua Tov.